Welcome to Junkyard Haunts, where we turn trash into haunts. Today we're going to be making a mummy hand. Now I made another hand earlier on. I can put a link to that. Each time I make like a similar prop, I try to use a brand new technique. So today we're going to be making it drastically differently. Our first ingredient is actually sticks and hot glue. And we're going to be forming our hand out of sticks. You don't need to buy anything. These are actual sticks out from my backyard. My tree sheds them like crazy, so I just go out and pick them and collect them. And then I go and put them together. Now I'm actually just using my own hand as the model. Instead of, a lot of times with these props, I'll have a picture off screen that I look at. This one I'm just comparing it to my own hand, make sure it's long enough and everything. And if it's not, I use scissors and cut them down. I just chop up a smaller stick for each little finger and then just bend it a little bit at each knuckle so it looks like the hand is reaching out and grabbing something. For the hot glue, I just put a little bit of the hot glue at the end of the stick, and then I just push it on to the other end of the previous stick, and then I have to hold it there for a while until it dries enough that I can actually let go. If you let go a little too early, you'll see it start to fall over. Just quickly re-grab it, push it back into position, hold it a little bit longer if that happens to you. Here you'll just rinse and repeat and make a new stick for each knuckle so that you can bend it however you want. The idea was to have this hand actually just reaching up. Unlike the last one I made, it was just meant to be on its side. So in order to do this, I glue it onto some cardboard, and I just glue a little bit more cardboard around it to keep it from falling over. And I actually have like an old candle that I used to make like a little base, to make it have a kind of a nice looking stand. And I glued that cardboard straight into that old candle base. The original lid that came with that candle was made out of like a hard, I don't know, I'm not even sure, like a hard plastic or something like that, so I couldn't really cut it very easily. So I was gonna paint it and cover it up anyway, so I just used more cardboard to remake that lid. And then to add weight so it won't tip over or anything, and to make it feel nicer when you're holding it, I just literally just add some rocks into it. And I didn't want the rocks to rattle around or anything, so I actually used hot glue gun to glue on top of them so they'd dry and harden into one little place and they couldn't shake very well. And then, just like last week, we're going to use Celluclay to actually make the hand itself. Just mix the Celluclay with water a little bit at a time until it gets the right consistency that you like. Celluclay does not support itself, and that's why we had to build this base skeleton out of something. I used sticks, but really you could use anything you wanted as long as it's rigid and hard enough. And then with the clay, you're just going to form it around the sticks, and that's about it. Since this is a mummy hand, I was going to wrap it up with some cloth at the end. I actually used cheese grade cloth, but probably didn't need to make it as detailed as I did. I actually dipped my fingers into water and smooth it around each little part, making like each little finger nub seem like a bone. Doing that by making each end a little thicker and in the middle a little thinner so it looks more like a bone. I think it turns out and looks nice, but because I wrap it up in the cloth, it was probably unnecessary. I also take some extra clay and try to put it into the palm of the hand, and then even use like a little pencil to draw the lines, because if you look at your hands, there's like little lines throughout it. I tried to match that, but felt like it was unnecessary in the end. Celluclay is very, very cheap. It only cost me about $20 for a ginormous bag that I still have tons of left over, so I feel like this still counts as trash because it is so cheap. I dipped my hand in water and smoothed out the clay as much as I could. If you don't do this, you'll see lots of holes and rivets inside this clay, so really make sure you use a lot of water to smooth it out. After I finished this, I realized I wanted a little bit more to this hand, so I actually went back in and grabbed more sticks and added in the second bone in the arm, but I wanted to break it to make it look a little cooler. This technique was the exact same way, as in you glue the sticks in and then you wrap Celluclay around it. Because you use so much water, this does actually take quite a bit of time to dry. Usually I'm actually working on multiple props at once, so the dry time isn't too bad for me. I just let it dry and move on to the next prop in the meantime. And after it's all together, we put in our awesome base coat of black spray paint. And now's that time I talked about how we're gonna wrap some cloth around it to give it that mummy look. I'm using cheesecloth, which again is extremely cheap, and it works really well with Podge. My Podge I use is usually watered down just because I don't need it as thick as they have it. You know, saves a little bit more, makes that Podge last a little bit longer. But you're gonna wrap the cheesecloth around and then use a paintbrush and actually paint cheesecloth with the Podge. What this will do is it will harden up that cheesecloth a ton. I wrap it up fairly loosely so that I can have dangly parts, and I still paint the dangly part of the Podge as well, because that will still harden up that piece and make it really stiff and firm. Sorry about the camera here. I just placed the camera up. I can't really see where it's at, and I pulled it off screen a little bit, so we'll probably cut a little bit of this out, mainly show the base of it, but for the most part it's the same all the way through. I felt like the cheesecloth was too white and vibrant for a Halloween prop, so I decided to put some paint on there. I use this blood spray, which I hate. I'll never use it again. It turns out really pink when it dries, so it's not my favorite thing. What I do here is I paint some of it brown and some of it red throughout, and then while it's still wet, I even wrap some more cheesecloth over it, and then Podge that part, and then trying to make it look like the paint is bleeding through the cloth. It probably should have, in order to do this more properly, used a little bit more paint at the time so it would bleed through a little better. I didn't feel like it showed through too much, so I went through and actually painted just a little bit back onto it. I also had to go through and rehide my pink little spray I have. It's called a cranberry wash, by adding in some red and recovering it up, because I really did not like it. The nice thing about this is it's easy to cover up. Just keep adding more cheesecloth. The more layers of cheesecloth will probably even add more details anyway, so it doesn't even look bad or look negative in any way, if you come across something like this when you do yours. Hopefully you guys like this one, but if you didn't, subscribe anyway, and maybe I will get better. As always, I want to go over things at the end that I could have done better on here. One thing that I think would have made this better is, as you can see, there's lots of white on here. I know mummies are usually considered white, but I think if I would have just dirtied it up, crumpled up the cloth and dipped it in some mud and dirt and just made it look older, I think that would have made it look a lot better. Comment below what I could have done better. Comment below with some new ideas, and I will get to making those. Can I shake him? Hello. 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 It works, guys. Goodbye.